Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hello and welcome to episode 25 of Horsin Around right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz, back from Europe and very happy to be back on the airwaves. I've missed all of you and look forward to talking to you about the Ohio Derby recap and, of course, my wonderful vacation to 3 different racetracks and so many other great things. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button on the bottom right hand side of the screen. We are very close to 4,000 subscribers, but we're not there yet. And we really need your help because that 4,000 subscribers, that allows us to do different things on our YouTube channel. So we'd really appreciate it if you are not a subscriber. Please hit that subscribe button. Of course, it costs you absolutely nothing. It just tells YouTube that you're a big fan of the podcast. That's it. So please make sure you do that. Also, hit that like button underneath the video player. We'd really appreciate that as well. And in the top right-hand corner, smash that notification bell. That way you'll know when new content will arise. Of course, you can reach me on X, and I had a lot of pictures and videos. If you are not following me on X, please make sure you do that, or following us on X, as it's not only my personal X handle, it's also the podcast X handle, of course, right there at H Kravitz. And you can email me scrolling at the bottom of the screen, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. Of course, you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. The tip sheet, and I want to just give a shout out to all my co-hosts on the podcast who did yeoman's work while I was gone and kept the tip sheet going with some excellent picks. It's still doing very well, of course, and we look forward to a big summer here with Saratoga and Del Mar not too far around the corner. Please subscribe to the tip sheet. Look below the video player for more information if you have not subscribed to that. We also have a great website, of course, hhhracingpodcast.com. And Pete Visco has thrown some pictures up there as well from my trip. So if you haven't seen that, please make sure you do that. And also strongly consider buying Matt Miller's new book, A Better Way of Thinking. And you can look into not only the hard copy, but now the audio versions and ebooks and all different forms of his book at abetterwayofthinking.com. Please support Matt. It's a fantastic book. You would not regret it if you bought it, for sure. We are going to be doing, like I said, 2 things. I'm going to quickly go through the Ohio Derby, which was the biggest race of the weekend, with a bit of an upset that we're going to talk about. And then we're going to deep dive into a recap of my trip to Europe. And I preface by saying I'm going to do a Q&A. If you want to hold off just for a little bit, putting comments in the live chat. But if you already have put comments in there, or questions, I should say, that's absolutely fine. But I will scroll back to the top and answer as many questions as I can that you have about the trip. Of course, if you're watching this on X, you do have to switch over to our YouTube channel if you want to be part of the live chat and ask some questions of me. I said on X as well, and through emails, I'm going solo tonight. Going to give my co-hosts a break. They covered my butt for 2 weeks, so it's time to allow them to have a little bit of a break tonight. And so I'm going to go solo. We'll go about 35 minutes or so. It'll be relatively quick. Let's see who's here already in the chat with some comments here. Of course, Katie is here. Let's have a great chat. Thanks, Katie. I hope we will. Michael Austin is here. Best race of your trip, whether it be a winner you thought was best, exciting finish, favorite horse. I will answer that question, Michael, later on, but I will give you a hint. It was definitely at Ascot. That was for sure my favorite part, or my favorite race was definitely at Ascot. We've got Dave Duncan here, who obviously knows about overseas trips, as he was in Asia for quite a while. What's up, Dave? How you doing? James is here. Hello. How you doing, James? Terry Frank is here. Welcome home, Howard. Awesome trip. Thanks for sharing. Terry, appreciate the kind words. It was a fantastic trip. We'll be talking about it. Sylvain Paul Huss is here from Canada. Thanks, Sylvain, for joining the show. And look who else is here. My good friend and co-host of Ben and Boozin. Patrick Kunzel, good evening all. Hope everyone enjoys Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Of course, after the show. That's right, it is Game 7. What a comeback, by the way, by the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, I had absolutely no clue because I was in Europe, but that's why we're going to get off relatively quickly. I'm sure you hockey fans would like to watch some Game 7 action, so we'll take care of that. And Sylvain and I agree. I'd love to see Edmonton win and break that streak. That would be very cool. All right, let's talk about the Ohio Derby first. The Ohio Derby run Saturday had a pretty heavy favorite in Catching Freedom, which we all know. He had a good run in the Triple Crown Trail. And as I go ahead and share the screen here, and by the way, that was Ascot in the background, of course, you can tell. Here are the results, and Batten Down won. Shout out to Paul Halloran, who picked Batten Down on the Thursday show. And I will say this was also my top pick, although no one would know that unless you saw my betting account. If you saw my betting account, you know that I had a decent sized win bet on Batten Down because it just looked like he was lone speed and he got loose. He ran very well. He paid $860, as you can see. And Gould's Gold second, Copper Tax third. Where's Catching Freedom? He ran a flat fourth. He just did not run very well. We'll talk about that for a little bit, but congratulations to the connections of Batten Down, Junior Alvarado, Bill Mott. I mean, what are you going to say? Here are the PPs. Did not increase his buyer, but he did match his buyer top, and he did it well. And this is it's a grade 3, but it was a $500,000 race. So the purse was very nice. Batten Down has won almost $400,000 now. He is a full brother to Tacitus, and he's also a full brother to a horse named Scylla, who is a very nice filly. So this mom and dad combination of Tappet and Close Hatches is just absolutely unbelievable. And Scylla's going to be running this Saturday, by the way, in a stake at Churchill Downs. Again, Batten Down got a 93. You see the fractions there, and we'll watch the replay. I mean, 22-4, 46-4, 111. It was honest, and Batten Down just right from the start, just took it right to him. I love the ride here. There was really nothing fancy. He's the 9. He didn't break outstanding. He broke, a little bit to the outside, a little bit of a stutter step, but there just wasn't a lot of speed in the race. I guess one thing that was a little surprising to me was how close Catching Freedom was. I think they knew that Catching Freedom's the 8. I think the connections knew there wasn't a lot of early speed, and I just wonder if that took a little bit of starch out of him using him early. I mean, he's not up close, but for Catching Freedom, he was up a little close. And you see there's just a monster hold here that Junior has on Batten Down. If you're a fan of Batten Down at this point, you have to be very pleased as they ran 1-2 around the track. There's really not much to watch here. Here's Catching Freedom at 2-5, which to me is crazy. I mean, I would have expected like 4-5 or even money, but he did range up. He just didn't have the punch. And Junior on the 9 hasn't even really asked yet. Now he starts asking. I will say Batten Down was a little bit goofy in the stretch. You see, he sort of hung on his left lead quite a bit. You see he's on his left lead, and he stayed on his left lead for quite a while, but it didn't really slow him down. And at this point, I just didn't think Catching Freedom was going to get there. He sort of flattens out. Here comes Copper Tax, who did make a nice run for third. Finally, Batten Down switches leads. And look, he wins pretty comfortably. And he did it well. And Batten Down's only going to get better based on his breeding. Apparently, they're going to be going to maybe the Jim Dandy or the Travers eventually. We'll see where they're going to go with Batten Down. Gould's Gold ran a perfectly good second. And I think just what this shows you in general, and I'd love to hear your comments in the chat, but Brad Cox, the trainer of Catching Freedom, said that the reason why they ran him is he was, basically breaking down the stall doors. He was training great. He looked good. He felt fresh. Sometimes these horses can fool you. Who am I to question Brad Cox? He's one of the best trainers in the country and certainly knows his horses a hell of a lot better than I do. But, Catching Freedom ran at 89. This was a major regression with no real excuses. And I just think he needs a break at this point. I'm sure the Cox crew will do the right thing with Catching Freedom. If it was me, I would give him 3-4 weeks of just stall rest. Just let him turn him out into the fields, let him be a horse, and then train him back for the Travers if they think that's where they want to go. Or maybe just skip the Travers, and the Haskell, and just rest him up for a fall campaign. Maybe the Penn Derby and then on to the Breeders' Cup Classic if they think he's good enough, or maybe the Penn Derby and then maybe wait till Thanksgiving for a good race like the Clark, which is a good grade 2 over Thanksgiving weekend. We'll see, but that was definitely a disappointing effort from Catching Freedom, who's better than he's shown, but it's been a very long campaign for him, and he ran like it was. And Batten Down has a nice future. He does need to get faster. So we will see. I'm just looking here at the chat for some comments about the Ohio Derby. I'd love to hear it. We got Rodney's here. This crop is so mid. No horse has yet to win from a bad trip. I don't want any part of these horses from this Ohio Derby. Rodney, I get it. I mean, Batten Down's going to have to win against some better horses than he faced here. He's going to face more adversity. There's really no one in this race, I agree, overall, that blew me away or moves the needle for me. So, Rodney, I agree with you there for sure. He says the best 3-year-old is in Baffert's barn, not even close. I don't know if you're talking about parenting or Muth. I guess I'm not sure who you're referring to, Rodney, but I have a hard time believing that right now because a Baffert horse has certainly not proved it on the track. So I don't know who the best 3-year-old is. I suppose you'd have to say right now it's Mystic Dan. I don't think, I think Mindframe could be the best 3-year-old out there once he gets more maturity and more experience. I think Mindframe is probably the most talented 3-year-old right now with Sierra Leone, close, but they both have their issues. They're both a little goofy. Maybe Muth or one of Baffert's is better. I don't know. We'll see. It's gonna be very interesting the second half of the season. No one has clinched any 3-year-old championship. That's for damn sure. So anyway, Katie wants to know how much was your hat. I assume I've got 2 hats. Katie is in the chat. Of course, this is just a good old baseball hat that I got at Royal Ascot there. It's a little bit dirty there. Let's fix that. There we go. This was, I don't know, I think 20 euro or 20 pounds. I think this costs like $28 at Royal Ascot. If you're talking about this hat right over here, Katie, that's my new favorite hat. And a little tip to Peter Thomas Fortel as well. This is the real deal. I actually got this in Madrid. This is a real Panama hat. It was not cheap, to be honest. It costs about, I think it was about 150 US. I normally would never spend that much on a hat, but I love it. I think it's pretty cool. It fits me well. I'll be wearing it at the tracks. And yeah, so I bought this in Madrid at a real official hat store, and it was pretty cool. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the Ohio Derby. There's really not too much to add. Congratulations on anyone who had Batten Down. It was a crazy pick 5. Pete and Paul covered the pick 5 on Thursday, and there were many coupled entries in the first 3 legs of the pick 5. They all lost. I think it was 20-1, 17-1, 5-1. There were only 2 or 3 winners in the late pick 5, and interesting enough, Batten Down was actually lower in the pick 5 than Catching Freedom, which was mind-boggling. But whoever had that, congratulations. I think it paid, I'd like to say 24, 25,000 something, the pick 5. So congratulations to anyone who had that pick 5. Not too many people out there did. Let me go ahead and take the banner off. Okay, so now it is time to talk about my trip to Europe. What a trip it was. I have so many things that I want to say, and now is also the time just to start throwing some questions in the chat, and I'll answer, of course, as many as I can. But let me say a few things. First of all, the first thing I want to say is a big shout out to everyone in my podcast family. I put it on Twitter who covered the show while I was gone. They did a great job as expected. And if it weren't for this podcast, that vacation would not have happened. I wouldn't have had the resources. I wouldn't have had the wherewithal. I wouldn't have had the thought or the intention really to go. I always had the desire to go. It was on my bucket list to go to Ascot for sure. And one of the main reasons why this all came together is because of one gentleman, my travel partner, and I'll call him my host on my wonderful journey, and that is the wonderful Davy Lane. So I tip my cap to Davy Lane, who, of course, has been on the show several times, who was a good friend before, is now even a closer friend. Now I had a chance to meet him in person. He was just a saint the entire time. He took so many pictures and videos that you saw just out of the kindness of his heart. He hosted me at his uh, countryside house and the south part of France in the Lot Valley, if you're familiar with France. And it was interesting. That was the first part. Actually, it was the second part of the trip. But Davy Lane was just fantastic. I can't say enough good things about him. He is dealing with a bit of a medical issue, so I hope that clears up for him and he gets better. But Davy was just outstanding. I had a chance to meet his good friend of mine, Phil Edwards. If you don't follow Philip Edwards on X, he is another excellent handicapper from Liverpool, friend with Davy Lane. And I met him and his friend David. So the four of us were at Chantilly on the second part of our journey in France. And so tip my cap to Phil's friend David, and of course to Phil himself, who had a unbelievable day at Chantilly, by the way, handicapping, winning a lot of money. But Philip Edwards, follow him on X as well, because he gives out a lot of really good tips and is a very sharp handicapper. So I'm going to quickly go through the trip, and then I'll take questions. First, let me answer Michael Austin's question: the best race of the trip, Auguste Rodin. Because, of course, for those that didn't see, I'm not going to show a lot of video or pictures. You can go on X and take a look at that. But I did battle with a bookie a little bit and got 13-8, which is basically 1.6 to 1 on Auguste Rodin. I think Auguste Rodin was 3 to 5 in the World Pool and here in the States. So I got twice the price on track at Ascot, and he's been awesome for me. He won at the Breeders' Cup. He won for me at Ascot. Auguste Rodin has just been a godsend for me. So I would say that would be the race, Michael. That was my favorite race. I would say a close second, though, was the first track. And I'm going to show a program. The first place that I went to was Spain. Went to Madrid. Just was there for literally, I don't know, 36 hours or so. It was pretty quick. Went to a really cool track, La Zarzuela Hippodromo, just outside of Madrid. It's on the northern part of the city, sort of northwest, and a beautiful part of Madrid, one of the more affluent parts. There were golf courses around there. They're nice houses. Here is the program from, of course, it's in Spanish. Here's the program from La Zarzuela. It was very cool. Of course, you're going to see a lot of Spanish in there, of course, but here's the inside of the program. They have description of the horses there. And of course, you can read. I was using Google Translate, although I do know a decent amount of Spanish, but I use Google Translate. And it was very cool. The Spanish Derby was the feature race there. And the horse that we needed the most won the race, and it was the number 5, Tetuan, which you could see right there in the program, won the race. And so that was a great victory for us. Whoops, sorry, I thought that was going to clear up. It'll clear up in a second. Sorry about that. There we go. But that was really cool. And La Zarzuela was great. We had excellent seats. We got a little bit of upgrade with the hospitality. The people could not have been more friendly. It was on a Sunday, and they start the races at like 11:30 in the morning, which was a little unusual. But it was only I think it was 6 races, I think, if I recall, and the races were over by like 2:30, 2:15. What was interesting is a lot of people stuck around after the race. They had food trucks, and there were a lot of families there. They have a lot of open area, and a lot of people stuck around. In fact, we stuck around, had beverages. They had the bar open, and we were probably there till 4:15, 4:30. just hanging around, talking about life, just taking in the scenery. It was great. Was betting in Spanish, which was very interesting, and it was a lot of fun. Made a few bucks actually on that day, and the Spanish Derby was great, and Madrid was fantastic. Let me know if the sound is better. I apologize now. Again, if you could put in the chat, I don't know how long that's been going on, but if you could put in the chat if the sound is going now, let me check that. Actually, I can check it on my own. Sound should be going now. Sound is good now. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Okay, I'm not sure what you missed there, but anyway, Barry Pennington was great, and that was a lot of fun. So that was good. Sorry again, everyone, for the muting. I didn't know that I was muted. I don't really know why. Anyway, that's the best show I can remember. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Okay. Anyway, wow, lost the sound after the 20-minute mark. Okay. Wow, that's a long time. I greatly apologize. I don't know what happened there. I thought the sound was on the whole time. Okay. Well, anyway, we're not going to redo the show, so I'm just going to check the sound periodically. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, Spain was great. France was great. Barry Pennington was wonderful. Again, I apologize for the sound issue. Okay. I didn't see that in the chat. Let's see here. What else here? Looking at some questions. Oh, I missed the favorite. Oh, wow, it's been that long. Sorry, Jim. Wow. Okay, favorite wine was in France. It was in Bordeaux, and then up in the Paris area. A good rosé, Pinot Grigio. Also had a good trying to think, good Merlot. They were all great. So those were all really good. Um, let's see. I'm not sure what else now that you've missed, but I'm assuming I didn't hear that whole deal about Spain. Spain was cool. The track was cool. Patrick, the racing was okay. The main race, which was the um, Spanish Derby, is really more like a like a grade 3 type. They weren't like fantastic horses, but it was really cool. Um, and so the racing was okay, but it was big fields, like fields of 12, 16, etc. So, okay, let's see here. Goose Steady is here. That hat is boss as AF or boss AF. We know what that means. Of course, I'm assuming Goose Steady, you are talking about where you're talking about this hat. I'm assuming Goose Steady, although I like this one, but yeah, the hat is, I like that. Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. Let's see what other questions we have. Again, I really apologize for the sound. That's the problem. You don't have a co-host. You don't know when that stuff happens here. From Nick Feldman, biggest travel mishap, or maybe didn't have any. Didn't really have a mishap. Everything went shockingly good. I will say there were some fights to get on the train after Ascot. I don't mean real fights, but I mean to get on the train, it was a pushing and shoving match. I almost didn't get on the train a few times. It was crazy after the Ascot races. I will say that. Anyway, let's talk really quickly about Sean T. Here's the program from the French Oaks, the Prix de Diane. Of course, everything for the most part is in France, and Sean T was very. Here are all the horses. A little bit hard to see, but anyway, these were the horses in the French Oaks. Sean T was very interesting. Very sort of old school track, not overly modern. The grandstands were like brick, and most of the grandstands didn't have actual seats. Like there were no backings. You were just like sitting on steps basically. There was a nicer area where there were actually seats, but not a lot of it was not. You were able to see in the background were like the chateaus. I think you've seen it. If you haven't watched, go watch a race from Shanti, and you see in the background there are these unbelievable chateaus. It was really pretty cool. The racing was very high class. It was a very long stretch. They did go right-handed, so the opposite of the way we go. Hospitality was nice. Nothing special though. The grandstand was again more old school. Um, it's a bit of an older track. The paddock was lovely. The people were very nice. I went into before the races when we were in The southern part of France, I went in what's called a PMU, which is basically our OTBs, but they're very different. They have like every little OTB is different. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but they all have like a bar area. It's basically a bar, and you can order food, and they have a few tables and some machines to bet. There are like very few tellers at all, live tellers in their PMUs or OTBs. It was almost all machines. So anyway, it was very interesting. It was very different, and I learned a lot. There's so many different ways to bet in France. I can't begin to tell you, but maybe we'll do a show on betting in Europe versus betting in the United States because it's completely different. But France was great. I was only in Paris for literally 4 hours. It was completely a zoo, totally crowded. Did not go to the Champs Elysees or any of the Eiffel Tower. Just we didn't have the time, and it was just way too crowded, and things were being blocked off, and the traffic, like I said, was crazy. Of course, the Olympics are going to be there next month, and so the security was really tight, and it wasn't ideal actually, but the people were very nice, and the city was cool from what I saw, and so yeah, France was great. Then let's see, I'm looking here at, oh, global entry, Jason Batts. Oh, I should get global entry because on the way home, I don't have global entry. I mean, it was my first time really overseas since I was a kid. So I didn't do global entry. The customs back at O'Hare Airport in Chicago was like an hour and a half. It was complete nuts. It was crazy. It was a huge pain in the ass. I wish I had global entry. Nothing happened other than just the line was forever. So anyway, let's see. Matt Miller definitely wants to have a different show on the differences in betting. We're definitely gonna do that, Matt. I talked to Davey Lane. We are gonna do that for sure. Jim Plars wants to know, was there a bet they take in Europe that you would like to see in U.S. wagering? Yes. A hard yes. What they do, Jim, without getting into great details, and Davey Lane does this all the time, is you can bet parlays on different horses. So for example, let's say you like a horse at Churchill in race 6. You can bet that to win with a horse you like at Gulfstream in race 8, with a horse you like at San Anita race 9, and you can parlay those horses and to get like a monster payout. And they also offer like a cash out opportunity as well. So I wish we had that in the United States. That'd be amazing. You don't have to, have one race right after the other. So you can parlay any groups of horses you want, either win bets or what they call an each way, which is a win and show. Basically, you have to have a horse in the money, and you can parlay those horses together for any dollar amount you want. It's absolutely spectacular, Jim. And if they had it here, I'd just parlay my like power picks or my favorite choices and try to make a big score. So I wish they had that. But that was very cool, Jim. The last thing I'll discuss was the highlight of the trip, and that was Ascot. And Ascot was just, absolutely incredible. I mean, what am I going to say? It was amazing. I had the banner on the screen. Actually, I can't show the. I had it up before the show. Ascot is everything that you would want. It was modern. It was absolutely gorgeous. Anyone that's been to Arlington Park in Chicago, it was that modern, if not more so. The entire inside of the grandstand was carpeted. Basically, they had bars everywhere. They had good food. Everyone was dressed to the nines. It was, the outside of the facility is just spectacular. The paddock was amazing. It was a little bit of a walk from the train to get to the track. It was like 10 minutes, but there was an uphill portion, which wasn't a lot of fun. Of course, we went downhill on the way back. But anyway, the track itself was just amazing. The only negative is you can't see the backside of the track really at all. You can't really see the horses. You can only see the horses from for the last like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 furlongs, and from the grandstand. So, you can use binoculars, but it is pretty far down the track. I mean, the mile races are run a mile away, some of them, because it's just a straight. So that was an adjustment I did of binoculars, but everything else was just absolutely amazing. I mean, it was I can't say enough good things. I will show you the official program, everyone. Let me just make sure. I don't know what happened to the sound there. I really apologize. I feel bad about that. The sound seems to be fine now. Here is the official program from day one of ASCOT. It was a small book. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Put it right in front of my face. There it is. And it was, there's not, there's your typical advertising, but it's very simple, very elegant. Here's the first race. Here's the Queen Anne. This is what it looked like in the program itself. As you can see there, there we go. There's the program. Very simple. They had all the names there. And, they gave, very little. They had commentary of what they thought would happen in the race, but it was very simple. They had other more detailed, they had newspapers, they had other things you could buy, but it's on very nice paper. Anyway, there's the Royal Ascot program. It was very cool. Did not win money at Ascot. Did score on a few horses and some ones that I gave out on X, but some of those handicap races that are 25 horses, 30 horses were just absolutely impossible. And I probably bet a little more than I should have, but anyway, on those races, but did cash on a bunch of races, including Augusta Rodin and some others. But lost money overall on the trip, I would say. Shanti lost a little money. Ascot lost a little more money. Won money in Spain, but overall, I didn't really care too much about the money in that situation, just because the time was just so incredible. Again, if you have any questions about Spain, France, the UK, anything else, please put them in the chat as we're going to end the show here in just a little bit. Sylvain wants to know, from your experience in Europe, what would you like to see an American racing way? Good question. They were on time. I can tell you that, Sylvain. Like they don't call it race 3, race 4, race 5. They call it by the time. So like in other words, if the second race starts at 1:50, they call it the 1:50. They don't call it race 2. And let me tell you something. They don't F around. And I love that about European racing. When they say it's going to start, it's going to start. And if something gets delayed, they they speed up. Oh, Goose Steady was talking about this hat. Well, thanks, Goose Steady. I appreciate that. I like it. They didn't have a lot of choices there, so this is one of the few choices I could have. I also got a cool keychain, which I don't have with me. I should have brought it. Anyway, they were on time, Sylvain, number 1. And number 2, this is a big one, they don't F around with the photo finishes. Like every photo, I think the longest we had to wait to see like who came in first, second, third, or fourth, the placings was like 30 seconds. I mean, so whatever technology they're using, we need to adopt that technology and we need to start races on time. There's no post drag. There's no like, hey, let's wait for more money to come in and all that nonsense. So there are a lot of good things that we can glean from European horse racing. I'd say those were 2 of the things. I did not see one horse break down. They all came back sound, at least that I could see at all 3 tracks. There are a lot of good things about European racing. There are some negatives as well, but those were some things I could think of off the start, Sylvain. Let's see what other questions we have here in the chat. Let's see. Goose Steady wants to know, there was an interesting question on the Brisnet call-in show last week asking why we don't have a mile straight track in the U.S. and what it might do for the sport. What do you think of the format? Davey Lane was shocked on why United States tracks are so small with tight turns, why we don't have wider turf courses, why, for example, you don't have mile straights. I think it's just a question of space. I mean, land is very expensive in a lot of parts of the United States. People only don't want to spend a certain amount, developers only want to spend a certain amount of money on horse racing. There's tracks, in Europe where they've been running since the 1500s, right? And there's just a lot more open space, I think, is the easy answer to that. So I think it would be cool to have something like that in the United States, but I just think fiscally, I don't know if that's possible. Kentucky Downs is the closest track that simulates a Euro track because there's hills, it goes up, it goes down, it's not flat, etc. But Kentucky Downs is sort of the middle of nowhere, and they have room for that. I just think it's a question of space and fiscal responsibility. I think it would be cool if that happened. It would be an adjustment um, for jockeys and trainers and horsemen, etc. And as turf racing becomes more popular, maybe that'll happen. But goose steady. But I just don't think there's room, and it doesn't seem like people want to spend more money in horse racing right now. So we will see. Yeah, land value. I agree from David Duncan there. Land value. Anyway, so ASCOT was great, and that's where my trip ended. And I could talk forever, but I don't want to keep this sort of short. So anyway, unless anyone has any uh, questions in the chat, I'll just wait another 5-10 seconds or so here to see if anyone wants to put something in the chat. And Davey is right. When the horse scratches at the gate, they don't pull out everyone and re-enter. They just say, tough patooties. You lose your money. If you bet the 6 horse and the 6 horse acts up and they have to take the 6 out of the gate, they just spring the latch. You just lose your money. Or if the 6 won't go into the gate, they don't wait like 3 or 4 minutes. They're not nearly as patient there, the stewards. They just go. So anyway, that's pretty much the European trip. It was outstanding. I'd love to go back again in the right time, in the right circumstance. Possibly a trip to another country. I mean, Asia would be amazing. That's a whole other situation. Dave Duncan, I'll talk to you if that ever happens. But there's a lot of good tracks in Europe that I didn't get a chance to go to. And it was fantastic. Again, I just want to thank everyone out there for your support. Because of your support of this podcast was a small reason in part why I was able to make this happen. And of course, if it weren't for this podcast, I wouldn't have not met Davey Lane, and therefore this trip also would not have happened. Again, greatly apologize for the sound. I know that it sounded like that I was muted there for a good like 4 or 5 minutes. So greatly apologize for that. Thanks for sticking on, everyone. We'll try to make sure that won't happen again. Of course, when I have a co-host, that doesn't happen. So I must have pressed a button by accident, or I don't know. Who knows what happened? But anyway, I think that wraps it up. If you're part of our email list, I sent out what's happening this week. We've got a great show Wednesday, Benton and Boozin. Fantastic card this Saturday. They're going to be covering at Woodbine 5-grade stakes. Thursday night, myself, Pete, and Paul, maybe a special guest. It's Stephen Foster weekend this Saturday. Churchill Downs puts on a great show. They got 6 stakes, a bunch of graded ones, including Stephen Foster. You've got First Mission, Skippy Longstocking, some really nice horses for Pletcher. It's going to be a really Disarm for Asmussen. It's a real nice race. The grade 1 Stephen Foster. Also, we're going to discuss Hawthorne's late pick 4 with Emily Gullickson. Will be back this Thursday. And then there's some great Hawthorne contests as well that you should definitely get involved in if you're in the Chicago area or in the Midwest. Those contests, again, the NHC, are happening this Saturday and Sunday, including this Sunday is the Hawthorne Invite, where 60 of the top live money cash players will be competing for many prizes. Yours truly was fortunate enough to be invited to compete in that, along with Matt Miller, Brad Anderson, and many other really good live money contest players in the country. So I'm going to have fun with that on Sunday. But I think that pretty much wraps up the show. I do appreciate everyone joining us here. We got Brad Anderson. There you go. Great to see you back from Europe. Looking refreshed, Howard. Can't wait to see you this weekend, Brad. Love you, buddy. I can't wait to see you as well. I get to see Brad twice the next month because I'll be going to Saratoga in a month from now with Brad and the gang. James, again, looking forward to other shows this week. Thanks, James. Greatly appreciate it. Terry Frank wants a charter group to Asia. Why not, Terry? Set that up, buddy. Let's go. HHH Racing Podcast charter trip to Asia. That should only cost a few $100s. That would be a lot of fun. So Terry, start working that and make that happen. That'd be a lot of fun. But again, thanks everyone for watching and listening. Greatly appreciate it. This has been Howard Kravitz, episode 25 of Horsin Around right here on
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.